The silent approach. The bridge of the Catherine dreadnought Eternal Dominion hummed with quiet efficiency. Commander Zix stood before the massive viewing screen, his 4 eyes studying the small blue world that hung in the darkness ahead. His scaled skin rippled with anticipation as he watched his fleet of 200 warships approach their latest conquest. "Status report," Zix commanded, his voice carrying the authority of countless successful invasions. "All ships maintaining formation, Commander," replied his second-in-command, Vac. "The primitive world shows no signs of organized resistance. Their communications are chaotic and uncoordinated." Zix made a sound that passed for laughter among his species. In his 3 centuries of service to the Catherine Empire, he had conquered 47 worlds. This tiny planet, with its fractured nations and crude technology, would be 48. The inhabitants barely had spacecraft that could reach their own moon, let alone mount any meaningful defense against the might of the Catherine fleet. "Maintain course through their asteroid field," Zix ordered. "We'll demonstrate our power by clearing a path straight to their world. Let them see what true civilization looks like." Thousands of miles away, on a mountaintop observatory in Chile, Dr. Sarah Chen stared at her computer screen in disbelief. The astronomer had been tracking unusual readings for the past week, but what she saw now made her blood run cold. The objects weren't asteroids or comets. They were ships, hundreds of them, arranged in perfect military formation, heading directly toward Earth. Sarah's hands trembled as she reached for the emergency communication device that connected her directly to the Global Defense Council. The phone rang once before a crisp voice answered. "This is General Hayes." "Dr. Chen, what's your status?" "General, we have a problem." "A big one." Sarah's voice barely stayed steady. "I'm tracking a fleet of unknown vessels approaching from beyond Pluto. They're not responding to any communication attempts, and their formation suggests hostile intent." The silence on the other end stretched for several seconds. "How many ships, Doctor?" "At least 200, sir, maybe more. They'll reach the asteroid belt in approximately 18 hours, and Earth in 72 hours after that." Within 6 hours, President Elena Martinez stood before an emergency session of the United Nations. The normally chaotic assembly hall was eerily quiet as world leaders processed the impossible news. Behind her, a massive screen displayed Dr. Chen's astronomical data. "Fellow leaders," President Martinez began, her voice steady despite the magnitude of what she was about to say. "Humanity faces its greatest challenge. We are no longer alone in the universe, and our visitors appear to have hostile intentions." The French representative stood up. "Madame President, what are our options? Can our combined military forces mount a defense?" Martinez looked toward the back of the room where a tall, weathered man in military dress uniform stood silently. "That question is best answered by Captain James Morrison, who has been analyzing our tactical situation." Captain James "Ghost" Morrison had earned his nickname during 20 years of special operations in the world's most dangerous places. He was known for appearing where enemies least expected him and disappearing before they could respond. Now, at 52, he was humanity's last hope for military strategy against an impossible enemy. Morrison stepped forward, his gray eyes scanning the assembled leaders. "Ladies and gentlemen, I won't lie to you. In a direct confrontation, we lose. Their technology is centuries ahead of ours. Their ships can travel between stars while our best spacecraft barely reach Mars." Murmurs of fear rippled through the assembly. Morrison raised his hand for silence. "However," he continued, "there's something these aliens don't understand about humans. We didn't become the dominant species on Earth by being the strongest or the fastest. We became apex predators because we learned to hunt smarter, not harder." The Russian president leaned forward. "What exactly are you proposing, Captain?" Morrison smiled grimly. "We're going to set a trap, and we're going to use the one place in our solar system where human ingenuity has been working for decades: the asteroid belt." 12 hours later, every available spacecraft on Earth was launching toward the asteroid belt. The mission was desperate and audacious. For the past 30 years, human mining operations had established bases throughout the belt, extracting rare metals and water ice. These installations, originally built for peaceful purposes, were about to become humanity's first line of defense. Engineer Lisa Park floated inside mining station Ceres 7, frantically modifying the facility's equipment. At 35, she was one of the most experienced asteroid miners in the belt, and now she was turning her life's work into a weapon of war. The mass drivers we use for launching ore containers can be reconfigured, she explained to Morrison over the communication link. If we load them with dense metallic asteroids and coordinate the timing, we can create a field of high-velocity projectiles that even advanced shields might not stop. Morrison's voice crackled through the communication system. What about the mining lasers? Already working on it, Lisa replied, sweat beading on her forehead despite the station's environmental controls. We can focus multiple laser arrays on single targets. It won't match their weapons, but it might damage their sensors or communication arrays. Throughout the belt, similar scenes played out on dozens of mining stations. Human engineers, miners, and technicians worked desperately to transform their peaceful installations into instruments of war. They had less than 60 hours before the alien fleet arrived. On Earth, governments that had been enemies for centuries shared their most classified military technologies. Chinese rocket scientists worked alongside American strategists. Russian nuclear physicists collaborated with European engineers. Indian computer programmers linked their systems with Israeli defense networks. For the first time in human history, the entire species was united against a common threat. Dr. Chen coordinated the global tracking effort from her observatory. The alien fleet is maintaining course directly through the belt, she reported to Morrison. They're not even attempting to avoid the denser regions. Their confidence is working in our favor. Morrison studied the tactical display showing both the alien fleet and the human positions throughout the asteroid belt. Red dots representing alien ships moved steadily inward, while blue dots marked human installations. To any observer, it looked like a hopeless mismatch. They think we're primitives, Morrison muttered to his aide. They're treating this like a victory parade through our solar system. That arrogance is going to cost them. Meanwhile, aboard the Eternal Dominion, Commander Zix watched the approaching asteroid field with mild interest. His sensors detected several small installations among the rocks, but they appeared to be simple mining operations. The primitive inhabitants were probably cowering in their holes, hoping the Great Kethran fleet would ignore them. Commander, Vac reported, we're detecting unusual energy signatures from some of the mining installations. Should we investigate? Zix waved a dismissive hand. Probably their crude attempts at hiding. These creatures barely understand nuclear fusion. Whatever they're doing is irrelevant to our mission. The Kethran fleet entered the asteroid belt in perfect formation, their massive dreadnoughts dwarfing the floating rocks around them. They had crossed thousands of light years to reach this backwater system, and nothing would prevent them from claiming their prize. But deep within the asteroid belt, hundreds of humans waited in silence. They monitored their improvised weapons, coordinated their timing, and prepared to show the galaxy what happened when predators were cornered. Lisa Park floated at her control station on Ceres 7, watching the alien ships approach on her scanner. Her heart pounded, but her hands were steady. Around her, the mining station hummed with modified equipment ready to unleash humanity's desperate gambit. All stations report ready. Morrison's voice came through the communication network. Remember, we get one chance at surprise. Make it count. As the alien fleet moved deeper into the belt, the trap was set. The hunters had become the hunted, though they didn't know it yet. In a few hours, the Kethran Empire would learn a harsh lesson about underestimating humanity. The battle for Earth's survival was about to begin in the cold darkness between Mars and Jupiter, where human miners had spent decades learning to move mountains. Now they would use that knowledge to move something else entirely. The balance of power in the galaxy. The Hunter's Web. The first alien ship to die never knew what hit it. The Kethrin light cruiser Swift Talon was scouting ahead of the main fleet when three asteroids, each the size of a city block, converged on its position at 17,000 miles per hour. The ship's shields, designed to deflect energy weapons and small debris, were useless against the coordinated barrage of solid matter traveling at such velocity. Direct hit on their scout vessel, Lisa Park reported from Sirius 7, her voice tight with concentration. Mass driver strike successful. Target destroyed. Commander Zix stared at his tactical display in confusion. One of his ships had simply vanished from the screen. Vac, what happened to the Swift Talon? Unknown, Commander. Sensors detected multiple large objects on collision course, but there was no time tow. Vac's report was cut short as another cruiser exploded in brilliant flame. Then another. The precise formation of the Kethrin fleet began to waver as ship commanders tried to understand what was happening. "We're under attack," Vac shouted, "but I can't identify the source." Throughout the asteroid belt, human mining stations revealed their deadly secret. Equipment designed to move chunks of rock across space now hurled them as weapons. Installations that had appeared peaceful and insignificant became the nodes of a vast web of destruction. Morrison watched the tactical display from his command center on Luna Base. Phase 1 is working. The asteroids are disrupting their formation. Lisa, initiate Phase 2. Copy that. Ghost. Beginning focused laser array attacks. Across the belt, mining lasers that normally cut through solid rock turned their attention to alien spacecraft. While individually these lasers couldn't penetrate military-grade armor, the miners had learned something about coordination during their decades of work. 12 laser beams from different stations focused on a single Kethrin destroyer, concentrating their energy on one point of the hull. The ship's armor held for nearly 30 seconds before it began to glow cherry red, then white-hot. The hull breached in a shower of molten metal and escaping atmosphere. Their shields don't protect against sustained focused energy from multiple sources, Lisa reported. We're burning through their armor. Commander Zix felt something he had never experienced in 3 centuries of conquest. Fear. His mighty fleet was being torn apart by an enemy he couldn't even see clearly. The asteroids provided perfect cover for the human installations, and his ships were taking devastating losses. All vessels, emergency maneuvers, he commanded. Break formation and identify the source of these attacks. But breaking formation only made things worse. The humans had spent months studying the alien approach, calculating vectors and timing. Every movement the Kethrin ships made had been anticipated. Single vessels found themselves isolated and surrounded by coordinated attacks from multiple mining stations. The destroyer Void Render attempted to target one of the human installations with its main plasma cannon. The shot struck mining station Hermes 3, obliterating it in seconds, but the station's destruction triggered a dead man switch that launched every remaining projectile in its magazine. The Void Render found itself in the path of 47 high-velocity asteroids launched at point-blank range. Lisa Park felt tears on her cheeks as she watched Hermes 3 disappear from her display. 16 humans had died in that station, people she had worked with for years. But their sacrifice had eliminated one of the largest alien warships. "This is for Hermes 3, she whispered, redirecting her station's mass drivers toward another target. Morrison's voice cut through the communication network. "All stations, implement pack protocol. Focus everything on their command ship." The Eternal Dominion was 10 times larger than any other vessel in the fleet, its massive bulk bristling with weapons and shielding. It was also exactly where Morrison had hoped it would be. In the center of the formation, surrounded by the densest concentration of human installations, 23 mining stations turned their attention to the flagship simultaneously. Mass drivers launched asteroids from every direction, while laser arrays focused their combined output on the ship's command tower. The Eternal Dominion's shields flared brilliant blue as they absorbed the initial barrage, but the attacks kept coming. Commander Zix gripped the railing of his command bridge as the ship shuddered under repeated impacts. His tactical officer's scales had turned pale with fear. "Commander, we're taking massive damage. Shields at 60% and falling. How many of them are there?" Zix demanded. "Sensors indicate approximately 45 installations throughout the belt, but they're coordinating like a single organism. Every attack is precisely timed and positioned." For the first time, Zix began to understand what they were facing. These weren't the chaotic, primitive beings his intelligence reports had described. This was coordinated, intelligent, ruthless warfare executed with precision that rivaled the finest Kethran military academies. "Sir," his communication officer reported, "we're receiving a transmission from the planet Earth." "Put it through." Morrison's weathered face appeared on the main screen, his gray eyes cold and determined. When he spoke, his voice carried the authority of humanity's oldest and most dangerous profession, the soldier. "Commander of the alien fleet, this is Captain James Morrison of Earth Defense Command. You came here expecting to find prey. Instead, you found predators. We are humans, and we have spent millions of years learning to hunt." Zix's four eyes widened as he realized the terrible truth. "You planned this. All of this. The mining stations, the asteroids, the coordinated attacks. This entire asteroid belt is a trap." Morrison nodded slowly. "We've been watching you for weeks, studying your approach, calculating your every move. You dismissed us as primitives, but you made one critical error. You forgot that the most dangerous species is not the strongest or the most advanced. It's the one that refuses to give up." Another barrage of asteroids slammed into the Eternal Dominion. The shields flickered and failed. Emergency lights bathed the bridge in red as systems overloaded throughout the massive ship. "Humans don't hunt like your species," Morrison continued. "We don't rely on overwhelming force or superior technology. We study our prey. We learn its weaknesses. We coordinate. We wait. And then we strike from the shadows, using everything around us as a weapon." Vac looked at his commander with growing horror. "Sir, we've lost 60% of the fleet. The remaining ships are scattered and unable to coordinate a response." Zix felt his certainty crumble. "What do you want?" he asked Morrison. "For you to deliver a message to your empire," Morrison replied. "Tell them that Earth is protected not by shields or weapons, but by the most dangerous thing in the galaxy, humans who refuse to be conquered." The final phase of the human attack began as mining charges, normally used to break apart asteroids, detonated throughout the remaining Kethran fleet. The explosions created cascading chain reactions that tore apart ship after ship. Lisa Park watched from her battered station as the Eternal Dominion began to break apart. "Ghost, their flagship is finished. All remaining alien vessels are retreating or destroyed." Morrison allowed himself a small smile. "Good work, everyone. Send the message to Earth. The belt holds. Humanity survives." In the aftermath of the battle, as rescue ships arrived to evacuate the surviving mining stations, the galaxy received its first real lesson about human nature. The species that had seemed chaotic and primitive had just eliminated one of the most powerful fleets in known space, using nothing but mining equipment and coordination. Commander Zix, mortally wounded but still alive, managed one final transmission before his ship died completely. His message reached the Kethran Empire 3 months later. "Do not go to the third planet. The humans are not prey. They are apex predators, and they have made their entire solar system into a hunting ground." The story spread quickly through galactic civilization. Other species that had been considering Earth as a target quietly removed it from their expansion plans. The small blue world with its chaotic broadcasts and fractured nations was no longer seen as weak. Humanity had announced its arrival on the galactic stage, not with advanced technology or superior firepower, but with something far more terrifying: the cold, patient intelligence of a species that had spent millions of years learning to hunt. From that day forward, when alien civilizations spoke of Earth, they used a word in their languages that roughly translated to the same concept across the galaxy: predator world. And deep in the asteroid belt, new mining stations were already being built, their crews quietly modifying equipment for purposes that had nothing to do with extracting ore. Because humans had learned the most important lesson of all. In a galaxy full of potential threats, the best defense was making sure everyone knew that humanity was not prey. The hunt continued, and Earth was ready for whatever came next.